Hey, welcome to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset Podcast, powered by the Moran College of Entrepreneurship. I am Mark McNees, your host, and in studio today we have Zachary Asarnow and Ava Polly of Esperance. Hey, thanks for coming in, guys. How's it going?
It's going well.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. You guys are part of iGEM and Esperance. What does Esperance do and what does iGEM do?
iGEM stands for the Internationally Genetically Engineered Machine, and it's an international synthetic biology competition where teams from around the world come together and show the research that they've been doing over the past year to solve problems using synthetic biology. And Esperance comes in from the FSU iGEM team from 2023. There's this rare genetic disorder called Fish Odor Syndrome, or TMAU, which is in its long name, trimethylaminoria, which is a pretty long word.
Very long.
But so the team last year decided that they wanted to try and come up with a treatment for it, as it has no treatments currently that are that effective. And so last year they went and designed a solution, and we're continuing along with the process.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. So it's my understanding, it's a pretty rare syndrome. I actually have a little bit experience with it, which I'll share a little bit later. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the problems associated with TMAU and what a person's life is like that has TMAU?
Yeah, of course. There are currently around 800,000 people around the world who suffer from TMAU, so it is a pretty rare disease. What it does is it's a rare genetic disease that causes the affected individuals to smell like rotting fish, and it has a very strong psychological effect on the people who suffer from it. They can't get jobs, they can't sleep in the same room as their partners, and even when they've been out in public, they've been sprayed with perfume by strangers. So it has quite a large psychological burden on the people who are affected by it. And this number of 800,000 individuals is quite conservative because of the expensive diagnostic procedure. So there are most likely more than that.
Yeah, I'm not proud of this, but when I was probably in the second grade, there was somebody I didn't know at the time, but as soon as I heard you guys last year, the team last year talking about TMAU, I instantly knew that when I was in the second grade, there was this girl named Clarissa, and I'll never forget, she definitely had TMAU, and her life was miserable. I look back at it as an adult, and we weren't kind as kids. We didn't play with her because she smelled like rotting fish, and it was just so challenging. And I remember her, she just basically socially gave up. And like when recess would happen, like she would just go on the other side of the field and sit by herself. And I wish I was compassionate enough back in the second grade to befriend her. I look back at it, especially now knowing that TMAU is an actual thing that nobody has control over. And so it's really challenging. I often wonder, since last year, I started thinking about her again, and I was wondering, what is she doing now? What is her life like? And I became really interested last year in what the team's doing, because it's that's a terrible thing. And my understanding is there's really nothing that there's nothing that they can do about it. I know that you've talked to a lot of communities, TMAU communities and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit about what they've told you, what their lives are like, what they've tried? Ava?
Yeah. So a lot of our patients have tried modifying their diets or using a variety of soaps. Some even have resorted to activated charcoal because it's supposed to limit the smell. But those don't really hit at the root of the problem. After reaching out to multiple online communities, we found a really large one on Reddit, actually. And once we introduced ourselves and what we were trying to do and what our team was trying to do, they immediately hopped on board trying to help us. We've interviewed multiple patients, and they're really excited to help us.
So I know you guys are working on a therapeutic treatment. I don't know if Zach or Ava, could you tell us about what that is and what the process has been and what the hope is that this therapeutic treatment can do?
Yeah, sure. What is it? It's a cell-based therapeutic, which means we've taken FDA-approved E. coli bacteria and we've modified their DNA so that when it's ingested into the body, it excretes an enzyme that binds to the molecule TMA, which is the odorous molecule, and it oxidizes it into non-odorous TMAO. So that's the basic scientific way of how it works. And so what our plan is, it's going to be either in a pill or a liquid form, and you ingest it, and then after a little bit of time, it's going to reduce your smell.
Really interesting. And this started with the previous team, correct? And how do you know how they got aware of TMAU and why did they start working on it?
I am not aware of how they started working on it. I know that when creating the therapeutic, they used a lot of bases as inspiration, almost like Z-biotics or just basic lactate pills. But no, I don't know how they came up with working with TMAU and how they found out about it. Do you, Zach?
I'm not exactly sure of how they came up with the idea or became aware with the condition, but I know that once they were aware of it, they saw how big of an issue it is, especially for the people that are affected by it, and that they really wanted to tackle it and help as much as they could.
Okay, great. So let's talk about iGEM and the team that you're on and how it works. It's unique because it's a university team, right? And there was people working on this before you were working on it. And now that you've come in, tell us a little bit about just how iGEM works and what kind of people are on it and how big your team is.
Yeah, so iGEM is a year-long process where usually we create a different solution each year. This year was unique where we wanted to continue to work with TMAU and helping these patients out because all of us just fell in love, became passionate about this topic. We are still working with last year's team as they are the professionals and most knowledgeable on it, and other doctors and professors as well. But it's been really great working with last year's team. They've almost become like advisors to us and join our weekly calls. Would you like to go more on about iGEM, Zach?
Yeah, sure. Our iGEM team currently is made up of separate teams within the group. We have a build team, and a design team, they create the engineering team. We also have a human practices team, which goes out and reaches out to the community and does patient interviews. We also have a software team that develops the website and any other software that we need. We have the entrepreneurship team, which looks at the possibilities of commercialization of potential products, as well as how to get it into the market. And I'm the entrepreneurship lead, and Ava is the build team lead. And yeah, so it's pretty unique in the fact that we have separate teams within the group, but even though we all have our like separate aspects that we work on, we all still work together to create this big thing.
It's always really exciting at the end of the week when we all meet on Fridays, seeing what each team has done this week and how much further along we've gotten in the process of creating a product.
Fantastic. So let's start with you, Ava. You're the build team lead?
Yes.
Okay, great. So how many people are on your team and what is your team charged with achieving this year?
So usually the build team is a lot larger than it is this year. The build team only consists of 2 people currently. We want to have more people on it though. Mm-hmm. Usually we work mainly in the summer while taking classes and everything. We are actually in the lab creating the product, doing multiple, not trials necessarily, but versions of the product with the design that the design leads and team have perfected.
Okay, great. And Zach, you're the entrepreneurial lead. I know a little bit about entrepreneurial lead, but why don't you tell us what you guys are working on and what your goals are and objectives this year?
Oh yeah, as the entrepreneurship lead, Last year, they had 2 entrepreneurship co-leads, but this year it is just me and the entrepreneurship lead. Ava has helped a lot with working with entrepreneurship, and I still work with every other member of the team to see how best I can help each of them and how I can use each of their sections to help create like the entire entrepreneurial sphere of the project. And could you say the rest of your question again?
Oh, just what your goals and objectives are. What are you trying to accomplish this year?
Oh, yeah, of course. So this year, again, is unique as we are continuing on last year's project as well as working on this year's project as well. Some of our goals with last year's project are we are incorporating Esperance Therapeutics very soon. We are meeting with last year's team to discuss all the logistics of this. And so we're going to do that moving forward, and we're going to continue research and development of our therapeutic. It is currently in the lab undergoing testing. And for this year's project, I'm going to work with the design that we are currently making and look into how we can best commercialize it. I'm going to reach out to a lot of people who are currently in the industry, a lot of experts, a lot of leaders in the industry of the project that we are working on now to talk about like how best to go about it and potentially make some partnerships and connections.
Fantastic. I know that you guys just went through the InNOLEvation Challenge and became finalists. Tell us a little bit about your experience with that process. Was it helpful? Did you take advantage of some of the workshops? Were any of those workshops helpful? And tell us a little bit about the process and your experience.
Yeah, so I love doing the InNOLEvation Challenge. It was my first time actually applying what we've been learning in classes in a real world experience. It was a little nerve-wracking. We were put on this project about a week before the competition, so we really had to learn a lot about it, create a pitch deck. I was not able to go to the workshops, but Zach was, and he found them extremely helpful. Want to talk about it?
Yeah, it's actually a funny situation that we got ourselves in. The team was signed up to compete in the InNOLEvation Challenge, and the person who was originally going to do it, he stepped aside from it, and we had joined the iGEM team a couple weeks earlier, and they asked us, knowing our background in entrepreneurship, if we would like to compete in it, and we were like, yeah, this sounds really cool, and I'm really happy for the opportunity that we got to be able to do it, because I've learned more than I think I ever have before using this real world experience and just being like pushing myself really hard to do as much research as possible to just understand what like our product and our project as much as possible. And I really got a strong passion for it, knowing how much we could help people. And yeah, no, I'm really happy for the opportunity that we got with the InNOLEvation Challenge. I think it's really helped me as an entrepreneur, as a student, and just as a person, especially like with working on this project. And yeah, those workshops were pretty helpful. I went to one of them about pitch decks, and now I love making pitch decks now. It's really fun.
I'd like to add that the InNOLEvation Challenge really also grew my passion for working with TMAU patients. And I'm also really lucky that we got to meet with such great advisors like you and talk about the product, because it doesn't just help me with the TMAU business, but also just any other future business I would like to start.
Fantastic. And you guys went all the way to the finals. And I know I was a judge in the finals, but I don't remember the award you won. So what award and how much money did you win?
We won the Social Venture Award, which was about $4,000. We plan to use that to continue our research and talk to more people, advisors, maybe get a patent.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about you guys and your experience as students. Let's start with Ava. So Ava, what college are you in? What year? And what do you hope to do?
Okay, that is somewhat loaded. I am getting a dual degree in STEM entrepreneurship and exercise physiology with an honors in the major in biology.
Oh, that's impressive.
Thank you. I am currently a junior, And I'm pre-med, but I also have a huge passion in research. And my main goal is to do clinical research with a specialty in rare diseases and Alzheimer's.
Okay. And how did you get connected with iGEM?
I heard Caesar in Ron's class actually give a presentation.
Ron Fraser?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Yes, in Ron Fraser's class. Love him to death. And I immediately became interested. Actually, Ron Fraser, after that interaction that Caesar and I had, put us in an email thread and was like, this is Ava. She's a really driven student. Hyped me up way too much, Ron. And Caesar actually reached back and told me that he would like me to join iGEM. And then I started going to the weekly meetings. And I think Zach has a similar experience to me. I was like, Zach, you have to come with me. Like, we have to do this together. This is exactly what we want to do. And that's, yeah.
Oh, thank you. And Zach, so what college you in, what year, and you want to build upon what Ava said, how you came into iGEM?
Yeah, of course. I'm currently an economics major in the DeVoe College of Social Science, and I'm double minoring in STEM entrepreneurship and biological science. I'm currently a second year, and I follow Ava's sentiment about wanting to work with rare diseases in the future. I would love to work in biotechnology. I just am extremely passionate about it, and I've always loved biology and entrepreneurship, and I feel biotech is a good combination of the both and a good way to get these treatments out to people as best as I can. And my story of how I joined iGEM is pretty similar to Ava's. I actually learned about it a couple weeks earlier from when Caesar came into Ron's class at our internship prep class. David Montez, one of our advisors, he came as a guest speaker to that class and talked a little bit about iGEM. And when he was describing it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like exactly what I want to do. This is exactly what I want to work in. And then when Caesar came to Ron's class, Ava and I were actually sitting next to each other. And I was like, oh my gosh, again, this is so cool. I really would like to do this. And so after the class, both Ava and I went up and talked to Caesar. We're like, this is something we're really interested in. Like, how do we get involved? And then we started coming to meetings and then eventually joined the team.
Super interesting. Thanks, Zach. So during the year, I know that there's a competition with iGEM, and I think you guys said earlier before the podcast that it's in Paris again this year. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, great. And so you have the opportunity to go to Paris, which would be very cool, right?
Yeah, I've been, but
Oh, you've been, but
still excited.
So you don't
As
need to go
excited
again?
Oh, I
No,
definitely would like
do.
to go.
I would like to go again.
all right, cool. And when is the competition?
The week before Halloween.
Okay, great. And tell us a little bit about the competition and what are you, I know it's different than an entrepreneur. I know there's an entrepreneurship aspect to it, but what are the big criterias and what are you going to be working on to prepare for that competition?
Yeah, as I said a bit earlier, iGEM is mainly a synthetic biology competition. And so it's the iGEM Jamboree is the name of the competition, where these teams from all around the world come together and show the research that they've been doing and the projects that they've been making. And most of them, or pretty much all of them, are synthetic biology. And there are different sections such as therapeutics or diagnostics or other ways you can implement synthetic biology into different aspects of life. And so there are multiple criteria that we get judged on. Last year's and multiple medals that you can win. Last year's team won a silver medal in Paris, and this
year we're going for gold.
This year we're going for gold.
We will get gold.
We will get gold.
Awesome.
And there are multiple aspects that we get judged on, mainly the different teams that we have. So like human practices, engineering. Would you like to add on?
I think you covered it pretty well. Obviously, we haven't been to the competition yet because we weren't a part of last year's team. But from what I've heard, you go into a room with a line of judges, just like the Innovation Challenge, and you introduce your project. Everyone gets to talk a little bit about what they did. Some of the side things are like education, and those play a huge role into what medal you get, because it is important to just teach people about synthetic biology through your project as well. And I really like that about iGEM, because it's not just science-based. It is entrepreneur-based, human practice-based. They take account into modeling, designing, and all types of sciences. It's exciting. I'm really excited to go to Paris.
And if I can add a little bit more onto that, I feel like it's also really important, like each of the aspects that we get judged on is really important to the different parts of the project we work on, because as you said, education is really important, especially for our project with TMAU, because it is not a really well-known condition. And so spreading awareness of it and educating people onto what it is can really help the community.
All right. Thank you. So I'm going to ask you a really tough question now.
Oh, no.
So what is the biggest obstacle that you can think of right now to reaching that goal of winning the gold, and how are you going to overcome it?
I think it's best if you answer this.
So for this year's team, I'd say the biggest obstacle to winning the gold next year is possibly just the build process. Would you say?
Yeah, I would go with that. There's always going to be a learning curve. We are college students. We don't have our PhDs or anything. So we have to talk to a lot of people and have a lot of help. But in the end, we are the ones building it and learning about each thing. I think another thing is that TMAU is very rare and there isn't a ton of research on it. So it is hard to even ask questions and learn more, because a lot of people don't even know about it. Yeah. So I think that's going to be our biggest obstacle, is just the fact that it is a rare disease and it's hard to know how to solve something if you don't even know a lot about it.
Yeah, a lot of the lit review that you'd find for a project like this isn't really available or out there, or it's really hard to find on TMA.
It's also, sorry, not to cut you off,
that's
but
okay.
it is also, most of the research is with fish and not humans. And we do not have the same anatomy as fish.
Right.
The changing from fish to humans and finding out specific numbers, like let's say our diagnostic this year is with breath. We have to find out the concentration of TMAU in breath. We can't do that with fish.
Right. Okay. And there's the next question is, besides accolades and gold medals and things like that, what in your mind is success in this specific project?
Getting recognition out for the patients. A lot of people don't believe them, and it's heartbreaking seeing what they have to go through. So just teach people about what TMAU is, gain more respect for the patients, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Zach?
Success for me with this is to help the patients as much as we can. The condition that they have and the struggles that they go through is heartbreaking. And so I really do want to just help them as much as possible. And for the product that we're working on from last year, if we can get that out to them and help them, that would be amazing. But yeah, as with what Ava said, if we can just raise awareness for this as much as possible, I'd say that would be great.
So if we have a lot of different people who are listening, we have students listening, obviously, we have business people, we have investors, we have all sorts of people and stakeholders that are listening. What is your biggest need, I would say? If somebody could reach out to you and say, hey, I can offer this, what would it be that you would be really interested in, would really help you achieve your goals?
It depends who's asking. Like I said, there's a ton of different teams, or like Zach said, technically, there's a ton of different teams: human practices, entrepreneurial, design, build, not graphic design. You know what I mean, though. So it depends who's asking. Right now, I guess the entrepreneurship side of things, we are looking for people to help us with the patenting process. FDA compliance knowledge, we need more knowledge on that.
Okay.
I think Zach could add a lot more since he is entrepreneurial lead though.
Yeah, no, just anyone who could help advise with the process, help bring awareness to this condition, and as well as how like our specific treatment is a novel type of treatment. Cell-based therapeutics are a relatively new type of treatment that are coming about. So if anyone has any particular expertise on that would be really cool. And especially how to commercialize cell-based therapeutics. And as with what Ava said about FDA compliance, as well as potential patents.
We would also like to, this was in the talking, the workings, but we'd like to make TMAU to become a disability. People do have a hard time getting jobs because of it. And I think if it becomes a disability on a federal level, it would help the patients out the most right now.
So I always like to ask who in your journey, it could be anybody who's really helped you that you would like to recognize.
Yeah, so I'd like to recognize our two supervisors with iGEM, David Montez and Cesar Rodriguez. They're the ones who showed us this opportunity and asked if we wanted to be involved in it. And I'm really happy that they did and thankful for them to asking us to take on this challenge. And I'm very trusting us with it. I am very thankful for that. I also wanted to recognize John Breed. He's one of my professors and really helped me out with creating the pitch deck and just a lot of advice for how to move forward with the competitions and how to really get everything organized.
I would like to acknowledge Caitlin, who helped us a lot with the Innovation Challenge.
Simpson?
Yes.
Okay.
And also on a personal level, I'd like to thank Dr. Dennis. He's the one, Jonathan Dennis, he's the one who got me into research in the first place. And I wouldn't be here in the scientific field without him. He's not just grown my love for research, but continued it and keeps me excited about it. And he also works very closely with iGEM and has been a great advisor for us.
Awesome. So if people out there want to learn more about Esperance or TMAU, how can they find out more information?
Last year's team has a iGEM wiki page. If you just look up FSU iGEM 2023, Esperance, Esperance, you'll find it. It's actually funny. I have a story. I was looking up just trimethylaminurate, and it was actually the third link to come up.
Oh, wow.
Because it is so rare and we have a lot of knowledge on it. It is a good place to look. If you would like more patient stories, you can always do your own research on things like Reddit. But yeah, definitely our iGEM wiki page is the best place to start.
Oh yeah, there's all the information that you want to know about TMAU is on last year's iGEM wiki page. There is an abundance of information, and it's a great place to start.
Yeah. Not just about the disease itself, but also our process, how we came to it. There's a lot of things about education, entrepreneurship, the design, much more than what we've talked about here.
Thank you both for taking the time to come in and sharing about your experience with Esperance and the InNOLEvation Challenge and sharing a little bit more about TMAU. So the best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset powered by the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. Hey, if you like this episode, do us a favor and give us and we love comments, so please take the time to do comments. We read every single one of them. Please share it with your friends and family, especially if you know anyone with TMAU, especially this episode. And then don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you will never miss another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset. We'll see you next time.